Okay, so looks like we're recording. So we just did our npx create react app. So now we've got a create react app, and you can see we've got, a public folder with a index HTML file with a whole bunch of stuff in it. And I'm gonna probably nuke it just to go to some of the very minimum stuff in here. So let's see if it starts first. So we're gonna do npm start. Always nice to make sure something works before you go and modify. Let me shrink this down to the tiny screen. All right, cool. So we've got this horrible spinning logo. Never been a huge fan of it, but whatever, it'll live. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control A. Oh no, I broke it. So I'm going to save it and watch this thing crash. It's horrible. So it says error target container. Oh, that's not what I wanted to click on. Come on. Target container is not a DOM element. So if I go over here to source and I go into index.js, we have all this strict mode coolness and whatever. I'm just going to get rid of all this because who knows? We don't need any of that. Come on. Take this comma. We don't need a service worker. I'm not going to make a progressive web app out of this thing. I don't like their CSS either. It's horrible. Who wants their CSS? The rest of it, that looks good. So I'm going to save that. We still have some problems, like no HTML to actually mount this component to, but that's all cleaned up, nice and simple. Render takes two parameters or two arguments. So first one is the component that we want, and then the other place is where do we want it to go? Where do we want to mount it? So that's all that does. And that document get element by ID, I don't really like that. I like query selector. We're just going to do query selector. No, selector. We're going to do query
Brian,
selector. Yeah.
I'm not able to stay today for stand-up. I'm gonna head over.
No, you're good. Not a problem.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yep, see ya. So now we're going to do, I don't know. I always like container better because it makes it feel like, it's contained, or, if React explodes, it doesn't spread nuclear radiation everywhere. It's contained. Really, very well contained. So I'm going to just save that. It's still broken because we still don't have any HTML. So I'm just going to do my normal exclamation point tab, let init do it. And then inside of here, I've got a body. I'm going to drop a div in here. And I'm going to do class container. And I don't really like document. We're going to do Ryan's cruddy little app. Hey, we unbroke it, sort of. Now the font's wrong because we don't have the right CSS. But notice how this is just straight up normal HTML. We got our doc type HTML, just like we learned last month. Language is English. I think I'm speaking English. It's a really hard language to learn, by the way. We're using UTF-8 for the character set. Congratulations. We've got a viewport, so we can make this responsive. I've got a title, so that's nice. Got a body with a div that we can start mounting things to. So it doesn't like you to mount things directly to body. It'll actually throw an error or a warning that says, please don't mount to body. So you've always got to have something underneath there, like a div or something. And a div makes perfect sense. It doesn't have to be semantic. It doesn't have to make perfect sense or anything. It just needs to be there so that you can actually put stuff inside of that div. So it it can append child or prepend or whatever it does. So other things in here. So we got this cool favorite icon. I don't really like that favorite icon. The spin logo thing. We're gonna delete that. I don't know what that is. We're gonna delete that. Let's see if we can find out if it breaks with all of this stuff missing. Yeah, it's working. So basically the public HTML file is all it needs in that public folder to at least compile to something. So essentially all you guys learned last week is down to this one line of code right here and this right here. Document query selector container. So that was the inline block last week. So all right, so now I'm not going to do anything with index.html, index.js. I don't think I'm going to do anything with index.js. Let's go into app.js. And we're going to get rid of all of this. Don't really like their CSS. I don't want a spinning logo. And save it. Oh, I crashed it again. Oh no, let's take a look. Failed to compile, unexpected token. So the return statement has no idea what's going on. So let's just kind of take a look at the return statement. So nothing was returned from render. If you get rid of the little parentheses, it doesn't even know what to do with this. It says, hey, I can't render this thing. It doesn't have anything to return. So one of the things that React needs is it needs something to return. Sounds obvious, but if we're returning your parentheses, in this specific case, anything in that return statement that's in a parentheses is JSX, so that HTML looking stuff. So what you can do is you can just return an empty fragment like this. So there's no, this isn't a div or anything, it's just nothing. So that is a React project right here. Here, let me switch places over here. And if I go over here to body, you can see that the div class containers there, and there's nothing in there. It's exactly the way that it was defined in public index.html. Sure, there's some scripts and stuff in here, but that's what React does. It does what it does. So we're wanting to start putting stuff in here. So if I just go back over to app and I change these over to say a header. Save that, you'll notice now we have a header. So the other thing is, let's say we have a main right here, and I try saving that. Oh, it broke again. So the reason why it broke is that this return statement can only return one parent element at a time. So what we can do is we can wrap this in a fragment because we want a header and a main, probably a footer as well. So we can wrap this in a fragment. And now these two lines have a parent. And it's an empty parent, but it's a parent. And then I can even do a footer. Right, like that. So just like we were taught last month. So now we've got a body with a div class container. So now we can, make it so we have a max width or something. Header, a main, a footer. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's see all this other stuff that we don't need in here. So we're not doing anything with app.css. We'll get rid of that. Yeah, I'm not wanting to do any testing either. Sorry. Index CSS, don't care. Probably need index.js. That's kind of how it makes all this stuff. Don't need a logo. No service workers. And I certainly don't want to set up tests. All right, so now I'm down to like 3 files. That's it so far. Don't want to delete the get ignore or these things. These seem pretty important. So there's really not much to React once you get outside of that. Oh man, we've got like 500 million files. I got to prop drill like 80 times and then spread states, and you're just like, no, it's really not that hard. So typically, what you'll do is you'll start making components inside of here. So for right now, what we're going to do is we're not really going to be making components yet. By the end, yeah, we're going to have a component specifically for a button. That's it. So essentially nothing. So let's say that that I wanted to just put in just a regular, normal, everyday button inside of the header. And we're just going to say an on button. Okay, so congratulations, it does nothing. But we have a button. Give me 1 second, I'm being dinged. Somebody can't get in. Somebody else is also trying to give me. There we go. Okay. And then, so now we've got an on button inside of the header. That's not a big deal. Let's say that I have, I want to store whether or not the button is on or off. So what you would do is you're going to be using use state. So you're going to be using a hook for that. So we'll just say on, off, button set on, off. So now I'm going to equal this to use state. And I do things a little quicker. So I just typed in use state and then tab because Emmet, I don't have any other plugins or anything, very few plugins on my machine. You know, a lot of people, they've got like all these things in here. I have bracket pair colorizer, fantastic. I'm running the Dracula theme because somebody said, hey, let's try it. And one of our get-togethers. And I was like, okay, cool, I like it. It's kind of a little pink for me, but it's fine. I'm secure in my manlyhood on that. So live server.
I'm glad that I can get everybody to do Dracula.
Yeah, it's
sorry
fantastic.
for spreading that trend.
Live server. I've got live server working. I'm not using it right now, but I have to do a lot of tutorials on things for random students that need issues in their first month. I've got Python because I'm in computer science. That's it. I don't have, you know, ES7 snippets, React core, whatever things. I don't really need to have snippets to have fun. So in the use state takes a default value, and I think I want to have it where it's false because I want that button to be off by default. So this shouldn't be too big of a deal to make this work. So what I'm also wanting to do is I'm wanting to make this so that this actually changes off and on. So if I'm going to do that, I have to break out of JSX mode and go back into JavaScript mode. So I do that by having these curly brackets. So it's not saying this is an object, it's saying, hey, I'm going to start typing JavaScript in here. So whenever you're in a return, it doesn't like if-else statements. So you have to use a ternary. So I know they just barely touched on it recently, but you'll get used to it and it's not really that big of a deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do on-off button. I'm going to ask if it's true or false. If it's true, I'm going to return on. Colon means or. If it's false, we do off. So now this should display off when I save this. Okay, so now that's off and the button doesn't do anything yet. It just doesn't have an on-click event, doesn't have click handler or anything. So now we get to go into the button and put in a click handler. So we're just going to do an on-click. We're going to equal that to, sorry, JavaScript mode. So now we're into JavaScript mode right here. So typically, I'm going to write this out longhand and just say that this is a function. Now this function is going to run something. So I'm going to just run set on off button. And inside of on off button, I'm going to do a not. So this is a toggle on off button. So on off button currently is false. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be replacing that false with not false, which is true. So if it's not false, it's true. And then when it's true, I want it to go false. So what I've done here is I've got a callback. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in an ePrevent default because bad things happen on buttons when you don't. So that's off and then on, off, on. So the interesting thing here is that you can start doing other cool things. Like you can do a class name. And again, you have to use class name because you can't use class because it's JavaScript and reasons. As Ryan Reynolds likes to say, you know. Man, I'm being dinged like crazy. That's crazy. Let me see who's dinging me. Give me a minute. Okay. All right, so got lots more people asking me questions, more questions asking me questions. Okay, give me 1 second. I've got one other person. Okay, so brain, tiny, very tiny brain. So is everybody with me with the curly brackets escaping out of this HTML, JSX, weird looking mode into JavaScript? And then inside of here, I have a callback that takes E. So E traditionally is event. And you can call it anything you want. You could call it X. You could call it H. You could call it E. You could call it event. You could call it the thing. It doesn't really matter. So what event prevent default does is when you click the button, in certain circumstances in React, it'll refresh the entire page and it'll go back to its default state of false here. So, and it'll basically just refresh the whole page. So we have this class name, and we can actually set this class name to something other than, you know, I don't know, header or whatever. You can say dark and light. So let's make this a dark mode. So we'll do on-off button, question mark. And this is going to return, if it's on, then we want this thing to be dark or light. Okay, so now we've got, if you look in here, you have header class is light right now. Now it's dark. So it changes from light to dark every time that I click on this. And I can actually copy this and, you know, we can paste this down onto, say, our main and our footer. And that should work. Yeah, I need to put a space there. All right, let's see if that explodes. All right, so now when I click this, if you notice now your header goes to dark, your main goes to dark, your footer goes to dark. Otherwise, it's in light. So now, that's enough to at least get some cool things going. You know, I'm not even using components yet. This is just one component called app, and that's it. I'm not using a subcomponent for header or main or footer, or I'm not running routes. I'm not doing anything. It's just a very basic application with 3 separate HTML elements. So without going crazy on it, we've already got something that all we need to do is add some CSS and some content, and we've got something interesting going. So let's go ahead and put in a little content in here. So I think I probably want to wrap this button in a nav. And then we'll tab this over and we'll do /nav. All right, so we've got a button. We could probably call this, say, P, and we'll say, like that. So dark mode on or off. So let's go ahead and also do this on-off button thing here as well. Class name. We'll just copy this one where it's on or off, because it would be nice for the CSS to know whether or not that button is on or off at some point. So now we've got a nav, we've got dark mode, we've got a button with class off, class on, like that. So we're able to communicate to our CSS to tell it whatever we want to style. So let's go ahead and I think I'm gonna wrap the P and the button in a div, and then we'll do /div. Those are my mind. And then we'll do like a, I don't know, a. I can't type today. We'll do an ahref, and we'll go to, we'll say, all right, cool. So now we've got a link to Google. We'll do some other ones just for grins. We'll do Yahoo because I'm old. The OK Boomer jokes. I could say Alta Vista, but I'm afraid of clicking on that. Probably a not nice site by now. So, all right. So now we kind of have, I don't know, a navigation with a dark mode button and a couple of links to Google and Yahoo. It's ugly. Not really worried about it. And then let's do main. Let's see here. We'll do a section with an article. Inside the article, we'll have an H2. And then we'll do a P with lorem 40. Is it times 40? I'm losing my mind. It's not letting me do lorem. No. Yeah, it's not letting me do lorem ipsum. So I'm just going to do. All right, cool. All right, so now we got lorem. Let's do unsplash random images. So we're going to do random slash, I don't know, we'll do 300 by 200. That. And then we're going to put in a little image here. So alt is, we'll just say random. All right, so let's go and take a look. Okay, cool. So now we got somebody climbing that, and we'll go ahead and copy this a couple of times. There we go. One of the tricks, if you don't want to have like the identical image on these random images, is just change it to like 201, and then change this next one to like 202. It's still going to be about the same size, but now you have 3 different images instead of the exact same image. All right, so I'm going to say lorem 2, lorem 3. All right, cool. So we have no style on this at all. And on the footer, let's just go ahead and say, all right, cool. Copyright 2020 by English is hard, yo. So right there. So remember, we deleted all of the styling, everything in here. It was really horrible. I didn't like their style anyway. Not that I need to go through and complain about my style. My style is really quite awful as well. So we're just going to do a new file, and we're going to call this, I don't know, bad CSS not CSS. Okay, cool. So in our app, you can just import quote dot slash and bad CSS dot CSS. And that probably shouldn't crash. Okay, cool. It didn't crash. So let's see if this is working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do body, and we'll do background color. I don't know. We'll do psychotically blue, blue. Okay, obviously that's working. Let's get rid of it before we die. Okay, cool. Let me do a reset. We're going to leave the attribution in here. I'm going to copy that. I don't think I want to put it in bad CSS. I think I want to put it in another one. We're just going to call this reset. Okay, cool. So now I can just go into app, and above bad CSS, I can just import. And then I can paste this in. And I'm going to save this. Okay, so now we have completely boring everything. Let's see here. Let's make sure everything's still working. So light, dark, cool. So let's go ahead and start doing our bad CSS. So we're going to do dot dark, and we're going to do the text color is white, and background color is black. All right, so dark mode's on, it's off. God, that's horrible. So that's, I don't think I really want true black. Let's do, I always forget. Save it. And then that way it's kind of like an off black. And then white, I don't think white looks really good with that. So we'll do, I don't know, something like that. So it's kind of like a gray. So it looks a little less annoying. All right. So next thing I notice is I hate the links that I have. So we're going to start with our links, and let's do okay, cool. And then we also have a text decoration. Okay, cool. Not Bach, block. Okay, cool. So now we have a dark mode button. See, that's not quite right. So probably what we actually want to do is not have that in there, because if you notice, our links just don't look quite right when they were there. So we probably need a separate one here for a dot dark. We can do it this way. I could be wrong. See if it complains. Yeah, maybe it's a space dot dark. Always hate it when that happens. Looks like we're going to actually have to add that to our A's as well. So let's do I'm sure you can make it inherit. That would probably work as well. But in this specific case, I think this is just faster for class time. And we're just going to copy, oh hush. We're just going to copy this. Happy little trees, right? All right, so let's see here. There we go. So now it's working okay. So I don't know. Really don't like the style of this button either. What do you guys think? The button sucks, needs to die? I think the button sucks, it needs to die. So we're gonna do border none. Let's see if we can do padding none. I think we just do 0. Okay, so now we've got background. All right, so now we've just got an on and off ugly button, right? So now, I think what I want to do is turn this kind of like into a light switch. You guys want to see me make a light switch? You want it to go right, left, or up and down? Up and down. Okay, cool. Everybody says up and down. So, all right. So we've got a button. We've got a class name of off and on. So that's pretty cool. I'm also being dinged. Why am I being dinged? Let's see here. Oh, I got to answer a question. Give me one moment. Got another person asking. So many questions. Oh, I don't have to worry about that. Never mind. So on this button, I'm probably going to want an on-off text, and I'm going to want something else inside of here. So I'm just going to use a div. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to just sit there and look pretty. Like literally, that's all it's going to do. So I'm using that kind of like an object inside of there, and then your on-off, I could probably turn that into a P. So we'll just put a P here, and then in the P here. So when we go back to, we don't need this. Let's see if this explodes. It did not explode. All right, so we have this div, dark mode. You've got a button in here. And we have a div and an off. So what we probably want to do is, since this is our only button, I don't think that we can worry too much about, I'm not going to add another button to this page. So we're just going to style it right here. So what we can do is we can do display flex, flex direction, column, and we can make it so that we'll do height as 2 rem. We'll do width as 1 rem. Let's take a look. All right, so we've got if we look at here, so we've got a div here, and then we've got a P here. So the P doesn't really have any height, and the div doesn't really have, div and P don't really have any height. So let's take a look at, I'm going to center these as well. Let's do justify content, center. Actually, no, this will be, I guess center would probably work okay. We'll do space between. And then we'll do line item center. Okay. So now we have off and on. I think I want to actually do column reverse. Okay, cool. So I think that'll probably work. So like imagine the switch is in a down position, the off would be at the top, and when you go up, then the on would be in the bottom position, the little switch would be on top. So let's do the div next. So we're gonna do div, we're gonna do button div. So we'll do border. And on border, we're going to do 1 pixel solid and there we go. So let me just refresh this, make sure that we're in a, okay, so we're in a default state. We're going to do a height, and we'll just say 0.9 rem and a width. So you kind of see this little border around here, and then we'll go ahead and put in the background color. And yeah, we'll do it as a D color. All right, so now you can kind of see there's a, you know, a thing here for off. You can't see that it turns to on anymore, and it doesn't really move. So not a lot of movement on that. Other thing is, I think we should probably put a border around this. So we'll do one pixel solid, and this one should be black because I want it to be really obvious that there's something there. And we'll do 0.7. Okay, so that kind of looks like an on-off switch, sort of, in a way. Maybe, yeah, we'll say 5 pixels. Yeah, it kind of looks like one. We'll do border radius on the div as well. All right, so we'll save that. And now what we can do is we can do dot on. So we'll do button dot on. And let's see if we can change the flex direction. We'll just do column instead of column reverse. So we're just going to change this one line when it changes to on to flex direction column. And let's see if this, yeah, it didn't quite work. let's see, it might just be an issue where we need to reduce the specificity. Let's try this. Yeah, there we go. So now it turned on the dark mode, off the dark mode, like that. Yeah, see, I think that actually makes reverse sense because the light mode, you would expect it to be up for the light mode. So we'll flip this around. So dark mode's off, dark mode's on, off, on. And then let's go ahead and see if we can change the color of the text to, oh, it was already black. That's right. We want the D. So if I turn this on, now you can see dark mode is on, off, on, off. Just by using a little bit of Flexbox. And we might make that a little more, I don't know, easier to see. Can you guys see that? Hopefully that makes some sense. So now we're working mostly in CSS. We haven't really touched a lot of React. You know, this is, you know, still pretty important to go through the CSS stuff, of course. And let's, I guess, continue on doing a little bit of this other stuff. So we've got like this random div here. So you've got nav div. So we'll do nav div. We'll do display flex. Let's do a little bit of margin left. Yeah. A little margin left. So you got a dark mode button on, off, on, off. And then let's do nav A. We'll do okay, so that's okay. Let's do all right, cool. So now we have our dark mode here. We have a link to Google, link to Yahoo, dark mode on and off. So that goes to Google. Didn't like it. I don't know why, but doesn't really matter. It's mostly just there for looks. So now we can start working on some of the styling on the body or on the main. So we're good with header. We don't need header anymore. So default styling is probably going to be the exact same between light and dark. I don't see there being any big, huge issues. So we've got section. Looks like maybe we could probably put a little bit of padding between, or not padding, a little margin at the top and maybe the bottom. So we're going to do margin 0 px. So top and bottom, it'll have one rim. So that's literally right at the top, that orange area. And then at the bottom, that's article, where'd it go? Section, come on. And down at the bottom where the copyright 2020 by English is Hardyo. And then let's do article. Article, we'll do a width 100%. All right, cool. So that's looking a little bit better. And then we need to do an article H2 to make it so that that lorem text is not so horrible. We'll do it. We'll do it and put in a little padding. Looks like we've got a box spacing issue. So got to go back up here. Everybody's favorite thing. So all right, here we go. So now we've got a nice little border around here like that. And we'll do article. This is font. Size, we'll do 2 rem. It's not line items, it's text. Okay, cool. So now we've got lorem 1, lorem 2, lorem 3, and then the last one is just a P. I'll do font size 1.25 just because I can. And put some adding a 3 rem. So okay, cool. So there's some styling. It's not the best website on the planet. Yeah, that margin doesn't look right. I think we're probably going to change this article or this section margin to padding. Because margin doesn't take the background color right. It takes that. Fixing bugs all over the place. I also don't like the padding on this. We'll do 1 rem top and 0 pixels side by side. There. And the footer is good wherever it's at. I'm not even going to style that. So we turn off the dark mode and we do we do a We'll do odd. So we've got a little bit of border around those. So now if we go to dark mode, it doesn't change this. So we've actually got to account for that as well. So we'll do I don't think that we're gonna do that. That's starting to get into a lot of inherits type stuff. So I don't know necessarily I want to do that. So, but I don't know. Every day you get a button that does that. I'm sure that we could do a transition to make it so it looks like it flips up and down and fades in and out on the dark versus light. So what do you guys think? Hit a brick wall? Hopefully I didn't lose everybody. Everybody's texting me saying, oh dude, I'm dropping out. Sorry, bye. So, all right, any other questions, comments? Anybody wants to see different code? Any questions on, I don't know, I guess prop drilling would be the only other thing that anybody else is asking about. And that's just, you know, component stuff. Yeah, let's see. It's like, I don't know. We'll just do a, header JSX file because that's how I roll. And I'm just going to copy my header out of here. And we're going to do const header is equal to an arrow function. Return, we're returning JSX, not anything else. And then we also need to export this. All right, so I think I'm going to rename this header with a capital H. All right, cool. So now we've got a module that literally does everything that the header did before. So let's go ahead and put in header. It should just work, right? No, it broke. So this one says, can I find file header JSX does not match the corresponding name on disks. Oh yeah, because we renamed it. Oh, all these buttons not defined. It's horrible. So what we're going to do is we need both of these states to be passed down. So on off button, set on off button, on off button. So in order to do this, what we can do is we can do random name here equals, and we're going to put in on off button, and then holy hand grenade of Antioch equals set on off button, right? Those are perfectly semantic names for everything that we want to use, right? Does anybody know what the holy hand grenade of Antioch is even? Am I that much of a boomer to know a 70s movie? Brandon's over there like, I don't know what a holy hand grenade of Antioch. You're gonna have to look it up on YouTube. Can't help you there. So all this is just, it's a name. Whatever you want to call it is whatever you want to call it. It actually makes more sense to call it on-off button. That way you know what it is. But it doesn't matter what you call this. It's just a key. just like in an object. It's a key. Same thing with Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch is just a key. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it banana. So these two, you've got a key value pair. You've got a key value pair. So literally when you see props being transferred into the next object or into the next thing, you're just seeing it as an object. So if I go to header and we do, say, we say Knights Who Say Ni, because we can, and we just, we'll console log that. Console log Knights Who Say Ni. So it's already failed to compile just because we already know it's going to fail to compile because the world ends. But of course console was cleared. Why would you clear? Die. It's probably because there's a button being called. Who knows? Weird. React is doing weird React things. This is what I get for doing a project completely off the cuff where it's gone downhill. So we have Knights Who Say Ni, and it's basically just an object. So what I can do is I can literally just go over here. See, now I've got weird things here. So random name here is on off button. So I can do Knights Who Say Ni dot, was it random name here? Yeah. That's why we don't use X either. So Knights Who Say Ni random name here is what we need on our on off button everywhere. Everywhere there's an on off button. And I know I could do it faster by using one of those cool little shortcuts. So let's see, did I get them all? Set on off button is not defined. So we still have to do our set on off button. And this is Knights Who Say Ni dot, let me copy this from over here. Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. So it doesn't care what you name your variables. It could be completely insane, zany things, and it still works fine. I know what I need to do here. Where is it? There we go. There we go. Cool. Yeah, does that look better? Did I mention I'm a really bad designer for this stuff? This is horrible. All right, cool. So typically you're not going to be using random name here or Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch for your names. Instead, naming convention is a lot easier if you just do on off button. And instead of Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, we do set on off button. Oh, yeah. Save it. Watch it crash and burn. It doesn't. Oh, there we go. All right, so it hasn't quite exploded yet, but now we can actually see the state coming in. So we've got on-off button is false, set on-off button is a function. So these are they're just part of an object. There's nothing more. We just have zany names on the other end, like Knights Who Say Ni. So we'll go ahead and do all the random names here. Oh, sorry, wrong place. All right, so I'm using Alt to do this. And now this one's just going to be called on-off button. Right? We still have Knights Who Say Knee. We're going to get rid of the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch because that's just silly. And we're going to do, oh, sorry, this one's set on-off button. Lowercase. Like that. I think this will stop it from exploding. Yeah, so we're good. Oh no, it's broken. Maybe we're not good. Let's refresh the page. This is what I get for trying to do things. So let's go ahead and change the last one. All these Knights Who Say Knee. Change all these Knights Who Say Knee out of here. They're obviously breaking my flow. Oh, not that one. That one. And this. Pretty sure we got them all now. All right, so now naming convention wise, you use props. That's just what people like to use. And let's see if this thing explodes. Yeah, see, it's still not. Oh, yeah, see, we still have that random name here. I missed one. We need props dot on-off button. Save it. All right. Now we're back to light and dark mode. So this is kind of the way that I try to show everybody how to do this, because it makes more sense to do it that way, just to get started. But there's other ways of doing it, like you can dereference props. So you're only getting one variable in there, and you can dereference this and define them by doing this. So on-off button and set on-off button. And now all you need to do is get rid of all your props dot everywhere. Like there. All the props need to go away because now they're defined. They're not a part of the props object anymore. They're a part of their own variable names because they've been declared right here, being passed in. Yeah, here, one more. Save it. All right, let's see if I broke it. So this is just dereferencing, kind of like when he was doing, you know, on-off button, set on-off button, like that. Like I think he had const in front of it. It's the same exact same thing as what the instructor does, except it's just a little more terse. So that's the way that you normally would program it, but there's nothing wrong with using props, you know, props dot whatever. It's actually a pretty good practice to get into, at least for your first few weeks of doing this. Maybe even a month, you could still be doing it. That way you understand where that value is coming from and that it's an object. You know, a lot of the times, the first thing that I'll do is I'll console log immediately in a new thing where I'm passing down props, and I'll just console log props. I haven't even written anything in that return statement other than a fragment, and that way I can see what I'm getting in and if that's enough data for me to work with. So, you know, hopefully that helped out a little bit as well. Make sure I didn't break anything. Nope, didn't break anything. What'd you guys think? Horrible? Make more sense, less sense? Did I scare anybody?
Makes more sense to me. Yeah, I was
only-
having trouble this morning or this afternoon. I don't know. It was just kind of a rough start, but once I got like the first part of it finished, it kind of flowed from there.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm gonna stop recording, and then if this thing will let me. All right, stop.